Hey everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful week. This is going to be a video explaining how to use the LQ indicator, which stands for liquidity. The concept behind it is a fairly simple concept. It is devised of two clouds, the upper cloud, or the seller cloud, and the lower cloud, or the buyer cloud. A simple concept that needs to be understood with these is the thicker the cloud, the higher the level of participation there is. So an example of that, here, the cloud is relatively thick compared to where it was previously, and this indicates that there is a large amount of sellers located here, a humongous amount, as we can see here. And we can see price rejects, it rejects. That's the idea. And here we can see at this bounce, that's a huge amount compared to what it was previously. We see a bounce when it has this huge amount of liquidity, and here it's got a decent amount of liquidity, we see a rejection. Now, when it's thin, like this, you can see this almost goes into a singular line. It indicates that at that moment, there's not very many sellers participating in the markets. So we can see here that it's quite thin and actively thinning, and it thins down to basically a line. That indicates that there's not a lot of seller participation, and it indicates that it might be very risky to take a potential short here. We can see here that it is this one is extremely thick. This one essentially is indicating that at this level there's a lot of buyers. Another use for the LQ indicator that is relatively simple is the breakouts. Even when the buyer cloud, for example, is this thin, it likes to maintain itself within the cloud. So we can see it breaks out and it pushes back in. It breaks out and it pushes back in. These can be minor pushes, they can be major pushes, but it does not like to stay outside of the cloud for a long period of time. It likes to stay out for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but beyond that it does not like to. As you can see here, it's very thin, which indicates there's not a lot of buyers, so we don't want to play for a reversal. And here it breaks out, so it goes back in. Those are the two initial concepts that you need to understand. Here you can see the same concept applies. It breaks out, so it comes back in. You can see again the concept where the liquidity is very thick, and that indicates that there's a lot of buyers at that level. And we can see a bounce. I'm going to move over to gold to give an example of a liquidity grab. So when we can see price consolidating within a range, right? We can see this, we can see the buyer and seller cloud is fluctuating, right? Like this, sort of like a channel. And we can see a huge break out of this indicator. And we can see an immediate reversal from that. This can indicate that a liquidity grab is happening, and it can have very high odds of reversal because we can see the consolidation. And if I was someone who was short, my stop loss would probably be above here, right? And that is where this goes. This is one tick above that. We can see again the concept of when it breaks out of the bands, it likes to return into the bands, whether that be a small move or a large move. You can see that again repeated here. I've switched to a chart of the Nikkei 225 on a higher time frame, the 4-hour chart, to show the use of it on a higher time frame. We can see the same concepts as the lower time frame, where price breaks out of the bands and it has a tendency to return into the bands. We can see that repeated multiple times. And we can see the same concept, where if it's thin, it doesn't like to bounce, but if it's thick, it likes to bounce. That is something I like to use for levels alongside all of my other tools, and it's something that has served me well. I hope that this has helped you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your interest.